Right. So there's the tour of Control Rig and kind of what's going on, and I guess thoughts on like the environment itself, and I guess other things as well, because I don't often get feedback when I'm doing it, because I try to like be as public as possible about this, because in case like a certain party wants to stop, I'll at least get an early warning of that. But I never gotten that. So as far as feedback is concerned, I got complaints on the Dragon Alerts being on 2s, and I kind of get that. The problem is like the plot itself and how what characters like interact with various things, and it's also the fact that I kind of went under the assumption that I think only in Spyro 1 you see these characters on 4s, and then afterwards you never see them do that again. They kind of just stop doing it. You don't really see them walk anywhere for the most part. They're just kind of like just standing around waiting for the player to talk to them. That's partly one of the reasons why I'm doing the animation here with these characters in mind, just to kind of show you what they could be doing, and then kind of have to sort of do my best wild guess how characters could be like move around, how like the buildings could be structured, I guess how they kind of like pose themselves, how they shift their weight, that kind of thing, and like they're fantasy creatures. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no like hard rules on how they're supposed to move, but enough to kind of make it where it seems like it's plausible, I guess, right? So I'm trying to like figure like a good middle ground with that, and I think if I were to go forward here a little bit for the topic here, I got complaints, I think, on this guy carrying this bag right here, and I'm not gonna change this too much. Main reason is that the scene is long enough as is. You can already see on my sequence here. You see how it says 17 minutes? This part is longer than I probably should have had it, but at the same time, I initially blocked out these scenes where they're a lot more basic and they're less like fluid. The characters don't move as like gracefully, and then I kind of went back and like try to adjust the pacing and time and everything, so the viewer gets a chance to like see a lot of things without feeling like too fast. But then that resulted in like the animation getting longer and longer and longer. The plus side with 3D animation is that I don't have to redraw anything. I just like scoot things over a little bit, and that then feeds in this situation where like the character's picking up what's supposed to be a heavy bag of packages. You don't see him in there. It's kind of implied they're in there. He picks up the bag. He kind of almost like hover hands it, because how too complicated like having the prop attached to his hand. Does this, has to bend his wings out of the way, and then have him walk around a little bit. So I gotten like a mention that some people think these characters might be high pedal bipeds, where they stand on 2s but walk on 4s, which I can see that. Though again, because the fact the only indication you get of that is in Spyro 1 and you don't even see him move that way, it's kind of up to debate whether that should be the case. Like, I guess I'm trying to do something as authentic as possible based on what you do see. I'm in the situation where I'm having to do my best guess, both for like, I guess what would make sense, and also for the sake of the pace of the scene. So in this situation, they're supposed to be carrying something heavy. Like, they already have wings on their back, their tail coming out. There's like a lot of things now coming off their back, and now all this weight's coming all the way down on their shoulder. I don't have to make it that realistic, but if I did, it'll also harden the pace in the scene. So in this situation, I guess you say like he only takes it out of the building by walking on 2s, and then maybe throw into like, I don't know, like a cart maybe, and then carries that as a possible solution. I was thinking like maybe like possibly tying it on his back like a backpack, but well, the wings. He's doing what he's doing. That's why he sits on a stool, which is now on the floor. So in this situation, I just have him just carrying this around. After I got like that mention, go like, that kind of is right. If they're dragons, they should act like it a little bit, because Spyro's on 4s, and then this guy's on 2s, which sticks out a little bit. Like, why is that the case? I guess I was going with the assumption where like, Spyro can't really stand on 2s until like his legs can actually support him when he's older, which is why the elders can. That's kind of the general idea I kind of ran with, because you don't really get much of an explanation otherwise for that. Or maybe it's just a preference. So I don't know. Since Spyro's seen on 4s, I keep him on 4s, because having him walk on 2s probably would look like he's like walling around like a duck or something. It'll look very awkward. So yeah. Anyhow, so this guy kind of like walked out. Seeing it from this angle is a little weird, because you're not really meant to see it from this angle. He's kind of taking like little steps just for the sake of like not having to move too fast to the door. Like he's kind of delivering a line right here. He's walked to the door. He's kind of hunched over to show kind of like the weight of the bag does impacted him. Then he kind of lifts the door out. Has to like duck his tail and wings around the door frame. I have like forgot how to get that to work. Basically, this character is able to like walk and talk at the same time. He's carrying the bag one hand, opens the door in the other hand, talk to Spyro at the exact same time, which is a bit more efficient and works better for the pacing to say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, and just get the scene done and have this character finally leaving out the door. And we can go on to the next part, which is not in this building anymore for the past like 15 or so minutes. Figure I would mention that because, yeah, that is a valid point. I am considering that. And I guess it is interesting I'm bringing up this whole thing in this behind the scenes video as I'm working on it. So if it doesn't make things take longer or make things more complicated or slow things down, then I might actually try work that in there. I think there's like a scene later on where that would make sense. Maybe like they start on 2s and then they work their ways on 4s just to kind of like, you know, maybe like have fun with that little concept. Yeah, so that's a little behind the scenes look of at least this section here. Might as well give you like a little visual tour of the other 2 locations. And I don't know, maybe we'll give you some potential suggestions. There's like some areas I'm not too sure of. Yep, this guy's out here. This thing's kind of fun because this is, with 3D animation, it is like a virtual environment you're working with. So like characters are actually physically moving around in the space, or at least you can make them do so. And then you like, you know, play, kind of see that actually play out. Kind of think about how to go from like in one building out another, how to frame everything, how to lay out everything. And it kind of helps almost like make a little bit more continuity from like one location to the next and how things are more logically placed out. Because in 3D, you kind of have to do that. Okay. So that's for this location here, this little setting that kind of slapped together. And it serves its purpose, it gets its job done. Probably should like put like more like window frames or something. Okay, and now I'm gonna try to load up the second of 3 locations. This is just the first one, there's 2 more. The second one is probably the most complicated. Okay, let's see, well, let me move. Okay, there we go. It usually takes a moment to like load up and then let me actually move anywhere. So here's the second location. This whole floating island set piece here, because this is the thing that happened in Spyro 1 at least, and go like, you know what, I don't see why we can't make another one. If you already got them, why not make another one? I guess you can go like, it's too big. How do you lift something this heavy and go like, magic. Means I can get away with anything, maybe. So here's the second area, this little travel jet area, and basically try to add a little variety to what was that? I think I clipped the camera to the flag. That might be what that was. I tried to like add a little variety to the environment by having it like based on like not Dreamweavers, which had the whole floating island thing, but maybe there's like other floating islands like Beastkeepers and Magic Crafters, and try to do something like that here, and also kind of play around with like time of day as well. So let me go ahead and give you the virtual tour here on how this is laid out, because again, in 3D, you kind of have to sort of physically lay things out. So this is where this boat comes in from, like Spyro kind of rides this boat in here. There's a little tunnel right here. This tunnel is dead end. I had the initial idea of like, there's like, again, an up area that's kind of exposed to the sky, because, you know, again, dragons have wings, so they probably would build like a place like this, so there's always like open sky to like more easily fly up, drop down, kind of get where they need to go. And I was also considered like having like interior areas as well, which I do have a little bit, but I didn't really do that too much because of how I have things framed. So that's kind of like implied. There's like little interior tunnels every once in a while in this location. Then I have like main like area right here that you kind of get dropped off from the boat. Then I try to play up maybe like a little town center kind of area, and just trying to think like if you were to have a place like this, how it would be laid out, and make up whatever I could think of that wasn't like too complicated model. Then kind of work for this little bridge section, and this was initially meant to be like, well, kind of a travel hub, but more like a marketplace of sort. But then I kind of couldn't figure out what to do with that. So maybe like there's like a little exchange, I guess, kind of area that kind of happens in. And then a little bit after that, this little like portal hub area that the whole point of this whole floating island is I'm kind of making an assumption that's sort of implied, at least in Spyro 2, I think, where the portals are going to only take you so far, and a way to work around it is just put it on an island that moves. So take the portal close to where you're actually trying to get to. So that was kind of like my little rationale. Aside from like, hey, floating islands look cool. Why not? But also, why would you do that? So this is kind of like the second reason I did that. I usually try to have like 2 reasons for something to be there. First reason is because, a nice little setting, I think, a little different. Second reason is that it has like sort of a functional reason why it's there. So yeah, so I got this little hub area right here. I sort of tried to lay this area out for a scene later, where there's always like a little bit of verticality going on. I think Spyro shows up here at one point, then it kind of works its way down, and it kind of winds up down here. Then, I think there's also this whole area right over here. This like in/like set of caves drilled into the wall right here. Try to give the idea of like, they kind of floated this island up and are trying to like repurpose the terrain a little bit. So like just like extra structures, which I don't think you usually see it from this angle. That's why that mess is there. There's like structures kind of built into the terrain a little bit. Make use of that idea a little. And trying to like get the most use out of this chunk of floating rock. So remember back when I mentioned this whole like baking, lighting, and blender kind of thing? I'd done sort of the same thing here, and I might still tweak because I think it's a little too dark now in some cases. Basically, like you have this big island up there. It's cast a shadow on this island down here because of the sun direction. So some areas are like in light, some areas are in shadow because of that. So you kind of like see how the light is kind of cast on here. I'm trying like another set of structures here for a particular shot. Little shops down here or something, I guess, because I'm more inventive than creative, really. Go like, oh, why do these dragons have shops? What kind of currency would they use? That's a good point. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they have a different way of doing exchanges, I guess. There's kind of an excuse for a little particular scene to happen. If nothing else, that's how far I got, and kind of like try to flesh out a little environment where it feels like this kind of sort of fits in. So there's like a little extra buildings around it. I literally just drilled a hole into a wall just to put the buildings in, just to make the modeling part a little easier. And yeah, that's basically it for this first island here. Not too complicated, and there's this little tunnel right here that I don't think you ever see. But I put it there anyway, just so, there's sort of a logical reason why this is placed where it is. I have this little observation area, because you have a floating island up in the sky, might as well, see what's down below you, why not? And the other island is right next to this one. These islands don't really move, partly because, like, I do use, like, physics props and things like that, so having it move will kind of break things, so the island is just here, dumb, and I better hope the islands don't slam together, I guess, otherwise that would be a problem. And there's a little interior area in here. Again, I sort of like reworked the light a little bit, and now it's a little too dark, and I have to go back and change it. There's like some Vertex lights in here, which I make a lot of use of. So it sort of lights up this interior in here, because it is like a cavern. Again, like trying to make use of the terrain and like drilling holes into like the terrain, trying to make little interior structures. The Magic Crafter setting have like interior little caves with lined for like marble, things like that. So try to like sort of use that idea. Have like a little makeshift bridge, so you have this little like speckle out here, like you can kind of see outside through here of the outer island. Maybe like there was like a natural like gap here, and then you kind of like bridged it or something, just an idea to like break that up. And then this little hub area right over here. So this is where I guess the Magic Crafter's version of their hub is at, because if the islands are like separated or something, there's still a way of getting around. It sounds like I think about this too much. I guess I kind of did a little bit, but it gives me like a little motion, like why have things built the way I do, right? Like, how am I laying these things out? What kind of functionality does this island serve, I guess? Portals on it, functions like a little travel hub, and then there's like a way to kind of get back to like the dock where the boat is at, which is kind of what this implies, but I didn't really model it because you never see it. You only actually see this tunnel once in the animation. For things kind of travel down here. There's like a little chase sequence through here, and then through here, and then through there, and it goes down here. And then it winds up over here. So try to like model this part with like this set of scenes I have in mind. And at some point, there's a little extra area all the way back here that is sort of not fully fleshed out yet, which is supposed to be like the Magic Crafters version of a portal dock area. I tried to like make this whole like boat thing linked with a bunch of portals, and it operates somewhat like I guess like a dark ride where you go through like various like different areas, but also kind of just take advantage of the fact too they have portals, so they can like chain them together like this to like, you know, take something that normally should not be able to get onto a floating island like this and just, you know, just portal it there. Why not? And just have like water kind of like in here. There's like a little like hole in case like the water kind of spills over. Just like a nice little like visual there as well. So this part hasn't like actually been added to a scene yet. This is actually meant for the end credits scene, where Spyro's like coming back on the boat. It kind of comes through here instead. So that's what this area is for. And with that said, speaking of Magic Crafters, alright, so here's the third location. This location is conveniently near that floating island up in the mountains, and just my fun way of like actually getting Spyro to the destination that he actually flies down from there, which sounds a little crazy, which it kind of is. Basically, it's supposed to like maybe like another location of Magic Crafters you haven't seen. You know, they're in the mountains, maybe like another part of it that you don't really get access to, so that's what this is for. Again, trying to play around with like the textures and how things are built, and have like a little tunnel over here that doesn't go anywhere, and a little like almost like, I guess the idea was like almost like a little apartment complex kind of area where they kind of just mine out like a mountain area and just kind of make use of the space. So like this is what my idea was. I probably could have made it more fancy, but in fact it was going to be initially more fancy. It was going to be like kind of like winding tunnels and all that, but instead I decided to build it like this because I thought it was visually more interesting, and have like this little like shaft, like a little whirlwind in it, so you finally actually see that being made use of in some degree. And then if you want to get back down, well, maybe like there's stairs somewhere, or you can just glide down. They got wings. It's built for dragons, so why not? And there's this room right here, and I'm not going to give you a look into that room unless you actually know what's in that room, but I'm not going to go and show you that. That's the last set of scenes right in there. So yeah, that's mostly it. That's been what I've been up to, and more or less just trying to have fun creating like something new, even if it's like using like old assets. And there's definitely a lot of cleanup I still have to do here, so I'm learning a lot as I do it, right? Like stretch textures, things like that. But yeah, it's all technically working, right? Got like little lights in here kind of going on. I'm thinking of like making like a nighttime version of this scene to kind of show like passage time. That's basically what I've been up to. This is basically your little virtual tour of what I've been up to, kind of like thought process behind it, and just with mostly me at the wheel, trying to like make the most of the resources I got without making it too overwhelming. Which, man, that's kind of nice thing about doing like low poly models. It means it's less complicated to work with. I guess the most complicated thing is like the animation itself, not so much the modeling or the texturing. It's really the animation part and like figuring out how to work all those elements together. And even now, I'm still tweaking it. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching. If you actually got to this part, it can be tedious, it can be a bit of work, but that's kind of what's involved. And that's kind of why it takes so long. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, if you like what you saw, make sure you hit like and subscribe button, which I don't want to say, but I might have to. And maybe also go back to some of the previous videos I made and give those a like as well. Again, if you want. Anyhow, yeah, this is basically what I'm doing mainly in my spare time. And hopefully by early next year, I can actually finally get this thing done, as I can make it out of the way and off my plate and do something else. So, yeah. So hopefully I will see you next time. And I guess if you have any questions of what I'm doing, don't be afraid to ask. I'll happily answer them. Barely anyone ask me anything about it. And, you know, maybe no one would be curious about something what I'm doing in here. So, again, thank you for watching. And I guess I'll see you next year. So, catch you then.